Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Jeff Cabo. He owns @Cabo on Instagram, where he has just shy of 150,000 followers on Instagram. You originally recommended to me, Jeff, by Bowtied Mexico. So shout out to Bowtied Mexico. And I'm really happy we kind of put together this collaboration episode. I know you got stories. We're going to talk a lot about Cabo, Baja California in this episode, and we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Excited to be part of the Latin culture, and living abroad is not as difficult as the mainstream media makes it seem. And there's plenty of pros and cons to it. So look forward to the chat today.
Mm-hmm. Let's start with that. What were some of your misconceptions or the misconceptions you think some people have about living in Latin America and how maybe it's easier than it appears to make the move?
Yeah. So almost everyone I told when I said I was moving to Cabo or moving to Mexico, they're like, "Oh, really? Are you sure?" Like it's some foreign land that they don't have running water or anything like that. So I got all types of answers from some people would be like, yeah, go for it. Who gives a shit? To some parents, some close friends, like, dude, like, are you gonna be okay? I don't really know how things work down there, but you know it's dangerous, right? Like I read all these reports, and the beauty of it is that Cabo is like almost a Hawaii type version of Mexico. So it's very isolated. It's pretty watered down compared to some of the other parts where there might be some cartel and some violence. And not to say that there isn't influence from different areas, but Cabo has been viewed as like a offspring of both Americans and Mexicans. It was basically built together by both groups, and there's so much money that comes in from other parts of Latin America, from the States, from Canada, even Europe. I know there's big talks of expanding with direct flights to Spain. So, I think everyone has a preconceived notion of life in Mexico or life in most of Latin America, but I've only found it to be, the hospitality is in my opinion much different. They're way more warming and friendly than most Americans are.
It's funny that you would get these warnings because you're the most battle ready type of American, right? You're like late 20s, early 30s, I'm guessing, bro
Yeah.
vibes. Like you can handle it.
Yeah, there's also something to be said about being a 6 foot male, where it's like I can go most places in the world and be like, okay, I might be able to handle my own. Not that I want to get into fights, because like the only trouble you ever get in, whether it's here or in the States, is like late at night, boozing, women, drugs, like that. All of the trouble that I've ever heard throughout, the States, Latin America, South America, Europe, like Asia, the only trouble that you really get in is when you find yourself in these situations. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like, tranquilo, amigo, todo bien. Like, we're all good here. Like I got no problems with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not,
Definitely. What state are you from?
so I've lived all over the States. I was born in Seattle, grew up in Boston, and spent the last 9 or 10 years in Southern California. So I've lived with all types of people, and there's pros and cons to basically everywhere I've lived.
Got it. So I guess living in California, making the move to Baja California pretty seamless.
Yeah, I mean, huge Mexican culture in Southern California. Plenty of Mexican Americans who don't know anything about Mexico, can't speak Spanish, which I always found to be a little bit ironic. But yeah, it's funny because it's just you just keep going down Baja California to the very tip, and that's Cabo. So easy transition.
The very tip. Um, Tell me about this Instagram page of yours. So, at the time of this recording, 146,000 followers at Cabo on Instagram. So, just four letters, CABO, which is probably a pretty coveted handle. How did you get your hands on this handle?
Yeah, so I was working on it with a buddy years ago, and he just had too much on his plate. He had acquired it, um, and I took it over full time about 2017, 2018. One, because I've always been interested in growing a community, growing a social media page and brand, especially being faceless. I knew that I didn't have to really promote myself or be in front of the camera, just for other reasons. It's easier to sell as well. It's easier to transact.
Right.
But it was kind of a pet project for a while. One, because I was close to Cabo, so I would come down here a few times a year. And two, just followed my curiosity, followed my interests in all things marketing and branding and videos. Short form videos are taking over almost everything we see. So putting
Hmm.
all of that together, plus just the love for Mexico, like again, people get this preconceived notion, but in my opinion, Mexico is like the actual land of the free. Like you can do whatever the fuck you want as long as you're not getting into fights or like dealing with drugs or like going after women of the night type stuff. So other than that, like you can do whatever the hell you want. You can drive to a beach that's, vacant at night and start playing music and, drink on the beach. Like you can get into whatever you want as long as you're not like interrupting people or like, getting in the way. So for the most part, I've always seen Mexico as what California was probably 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I agree with that. So tell me how the growth journey has been. I guess probably just from having like a sick handle, probably got to 10K like back in the day, like 2018. I'm just totally guessing here. And then maybe started hitting it hard and doing the short form stuff. Tell us how you actually go about growing a page like this so big.
Yeah, I mean the number one thing is just consistent quality posts. It doesn't matter really how often you post. I've seen plenty of pages with much smaller niches that grow incredibly fast, or much bigger pages that are growing slow, because it's really about just posting good quality stuff that people get to interact with. So for me, Cabo being a travel destination, I'll make jokes about like, oh, how cold is it where you are? And people are like, oh, I'm in Canada, it's 5 degrees. But really, I look at it like very similar to the guy on the beach that can sell you whatever you want. Like when people come to my page, they want to know about resorts, they want to know about villas, restaurant recommendations, like things to do. They want to know about the weather this week. It's like you could go Google that and find it out, but people still ask me. Like I get the craziest DMs. I
Hmm.
feel like so I started to realize that I need to be more than just show off like nice resort pools or show off this or that, but I have to be basically the nucleus for all things Cabo and really Los Cabos. Todos Santos, La Paz. Like we're starting to expand our
Hmm.
presence there. So for me, it's like, hey, let's make good content. Let's add in some information that people might not know. For example, if you're coming down to Cabo, like yes, you can use cash, but you're getting probably 15 to 1 instead of 17 and a half to 1 for the exchange rate, because
Right.
people are just gonna
Yeah. Do
they're
not use
gonna take
US dollars
advantage.
in Mexico. That is a
Yeah,
terrible idea.
swipe the card, pay in pesos. But yeah, I mean, like Hurricane Norma came a few months ago in late October. And so, I'm sitting there at home in Southern California, and I'm looking up all these different videos, trying to find stuff, and I'm posting it, and people are sharing it. Hey, you know, like how's your timeshare here? So people start to pick up that like this is an up to the minute type thing. So anything that's going on, whether it's local events or just general news about the area, there's a new Four Seasons coming in. There's so people really start to eat that up because one, they love the area, the culture is very warm and hospitable, and then again, when people aren't living in Mexico where it's 70 and sunny, in January,
Mhm.
they're like, damn, this is kind of a luxury vacation that they, put on their bucket list.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, in terms of making content, do you have it kind of appears that there's a mix of content that you guys make as well as just taking other people's short form content and crediting them?
Yeah, I started off for the most part by using other people's. So whether they tag me or the hashtag or just looking at top resorts and seeing, who posts and whatnot. That was how we grew from probably 15K to 70, 80K.
Just
And that was
reposting other people's
just
stuff.
reposting. Like,
That's
don't
epic.
overthink it. Just more so like make sure it's high quality. Make sure that there's not like stupid text over it or something. So I try to keep a very clean brand from that regard. Very high quality, very colorful. And just make sure that it kind of fits the bill. But now, and this is the reason I moved down here is I've seen some of the posts that I'm making, whether it's taking videos that I have or some videographers that I work with down here locally, taking that and being able to put a spin on it and create new pieces of content, that's gotten crazy growth. I mean, some of
Oh,
these that I
really?
made in five,
So
ten
you're
minutes,
doing better than the actual influencers or the other influencers.
yeah, I have much more. I used to look up to the official Cabo tourism board because they had 80K and I probably had like 40 or 50. So I was chasing them for a while. Like, damn, they probably have a whole team of like 30, 40 people that, put this on and it's just me on my phone. And so once I passed them, I mean, I think there's one resort down here that has more followers, but like almost everyone looks at what we do and is like, now they're chasing us. So I think the combination of posting other people's content is good because a lot of people are like, yeah, that's awesome. Like I got reposted by Cabo. Like that's so sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a handful of them get pissed. Like I've had a number of people like take that down right away. Like this
Yeah, I
is,
was gonna ask. You've
yeah.
had some takedown requests and stuff even after you tagged them?
Yeah, there's a few, and I totally get it. Like when you spend hours editing, like video editing is fun, but it also takes so much time that like you put out a banger, and maybe it doesn't do the numbers that you want, or maybe it does, but you see other pages pick it up and post it, and you're like, I'm not really getting like the you don't really get the reciprocation in terms of like reach and views and followers unless you're collaborative, which is a great thing that Instagram
Because
created
now you
because
can like tag two people, right?
yeah, so you can get all of you can actually have like a collaborative post with one resort in your page and
But would
that
you ever
will
do that without telling someone? Like, because there's two ways of doing it. Is like you can just post it yourself, and then in the description you just tag the guy and say like video by at
yeah,
XYZ, whatever. Or you could have a two-person collaborative post where it says like both handles at the top, right? Is
yeah,
that like intrusive to do without asking the person's permission? I've had people do it to with me where
yeah.
like I my we have my Latin life on Instagram, but it's like we don't really use it, and people are doing like shared, what do you call that, a shared post with
Yeah,
us,
that's collaborative. Yeah,
collaborative post.
a
People are doing
collab
like
post. Yeah.
collaborative posts with us without even like telling me because they were a previous guest on the podcast or something.
Yeah. So I normally shoot first, ask questions last. Like that's kind of how I roll.
Yeah, ask for
I mean,
forgiveness, not permission.
yeah, because at the end of the day, like otherwise you're just waiting on people. And the first job I ever had out of school, I was a server, and I've worked in sales for most of my life. So like I get that like waiting on people like literally and figuratively is like the worst. So I'm just like, hey, I'll throw it up there. I'll tag them as a collaborator most of the time, like, or I'll just tag them. And I have some buddies that own much bigger pages, multi-million dollar and follower pages that'll just like the description will be like video by and then the person's name, and they're getting hundreds of thousands of likes per post, and they don't seem to have a problem with it in terms of like kickback or people reporting. So I just view it like if you want me to take it down, I'll take it down, no questions asked. Like I just won't ever post you again. So there's like 3 to 5 people that I know are decent content creators that I just won't post again because they don't want me to. So it's like, that's
Yeah.
fine. Um, but most people are pretty stoked.
Hey guys, quick break from the podcast to tell you about job stacking. If you're a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltza, author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income by implementing his paycheck multiplication layering method. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, if you're interested in unleashing your earning potential and doubling your income, then click the link in the description and book a call with Rolf right now. I had a one where on our blog, you create like a cover image for the blog, and I took like a random picture of Panama off Google, and I edit it with Canva, and I actually
Yeah.
like changed the colors of it, and then I put like Panama hiking trails on like like superimposed on top of it, and somehow the guy still found his image even though it like had like the color composition changed,
Yeah.
and he hit me up and he's like, "Hey dude, you gotta like backlink me," and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll backlink you, whatever. And then he's like, you know what? Actually, it's been too long. You've had this post up for like 4 months. I'm gonna do like a Creative Commons thing and like basically sue you or some shit. And I was like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? And he was like a bro looking dude, but he was just like
Yeah.
some douchey photographer idiot. And I managed to like calm him down, but he was literally like trying to fucking sue us or something.
Yeah. I don't know anything about that. Like, even when I'm talking to people here, I'm like, I want to keep legal and like the government and finance out of all of my business. Cause like, I don't know how that shit works. Like, in theory, they could DM CAU or whatever, which I know was a big thing on Twitter a few years ago. Um, but like the Copyright Act says that like if you post it, like technically it's yours and Instagram's or yours in the social media. And so yeah, if you go on Google, like they could be like, hey, that's my picture, take it down. But it's like those are ambulance chasers. I don't really
Uh-huh.
fuck with that at all. But
I
that's
know. I,
why.
I wanted to like call this guy out and like make like some like like slander post or some shit. But anyway, I just let it go. I just let it go. But don't you feel like if you got one of those things, they could basically like hit you with strikes? Have you ever got hit with with strikes for this? Like reported?
I've never seen on this page. I've never been reported to the point where Instagram actually said, "Hey, you took this, take it down." Um, I have on other pages where they've taken down whole accounts that were sub 5,000 followers that have really, really legit handles. Like tens of thousands of dollars went into this handle, and they just, oh, one strike, like
Uh huh.
one strike, two strike, boom, you're done. Um, so it takes a little bit more than that, but that's a big thing, is like that worry to me is why I'm like, I got to create 90% of the content. And now it's shifted from like me looking at search,
Mm.
the location or the tag on Instagram to, if somebody tags me in it, theoretically in my mind, I can reuse that because you tagged me, like
Yeah, that makes sense.
so that's one piece, and then I just try and take like as much content as I can, or like my
And you do
buddies.
sick shit. Like you rent yachts and get a bunch of girls on there with bikinis, and that's actually you on the boat and stuff. And seems like you're enjoying things.
Yeah, I'm about to sign. This is a sneak peek, but I'll have an exclusive partnership with these guys right here, Papillon Yachts, pretty soon. So
Mm.
the idea here is there's a million different income streams possible for what I do, but I view it as like I'm a lead gen company for all of these different verticals. So if
Right.
somebody wants a yacht, I go, cool, send me your info. Fill out this landing page, and it just auto emails and
Yep.
introduces them, and they take it from there. Because like I don't know, I'm not a yacht expert. I'm not a
Yeah,
resort
yeah.
expert. Like I know enough, but let these guys do what they do best. So
I wouldn't mind asking you about some of that lead gen stuff. It might be slightly boring, so maybe we'll lead with the fun and sun a little bit. So I imagine just being the owner of this page, Hefe Jeff, that you've been starting to get invites to like sick private events and free hotel stays and some cool stuff like that. Like tell us about some of the cool doors this has opened up.
yeah, it's awesome because I'm like a semi faceless celebrity, so I can go to most hotels, restaurants, yachts. Like I get invited to stuff like that all the time. And so it's exciting because it's like, people want to work with me. Like they seek me out as if
Mhm.
I'm, a person of interest, which is great because oftentimes when I meet them, they go, "Oh, I didn't realize you were a dude." Like based on the page or my writing style, like I try and have it be this, almost like the VSCO, how it's like, you have pictures of like,
Aesthetic.
yeah, like the aesthetic is critical. And that goes back to the initial part of like when I would use content of other people's, like I know what looks good, kind of like I'm like an artist that can't paint. Like I could tell you what looks good. I can't paint it, but I could tell you like what's
Yeah.
good and what's bad. Um, so there's all kinds of fun stuff, and that's something I'm really looking forward to. So we're actually about to put on an event for Valentine's Day that's going to be a semi-private event on one of the yachts owned by the Patron Tequila family. It's like a 90-foot yacht. We're going to have
Whoa.
DJs, happy hours. So um,
90's big.
yeah, it's a solid boat, and I actually used to do yacht parties back in Newport. I would rent out these big wedding boats that were like 3 stories, like 150
Mm.
foot. They're not like a yacht, but they're just like these big wedding boats. I would bring a couple DJs and then sell tickets and have some friend, 200-300 people in Newport. Sometimes they would fly in, but we're throwing big yacht parties in Newport, having a good time. And basically, the whole thing is like, I don't see other people doing it, and I want to do it. So fuck it. I guess I'll do it. Like
Epic. Newport, Rhode Island.
Newport Beach, California.
Newport Beach, California. Okay, okay. Because
Yeah.
you said you're from Boston, so I wasn't sure.
Yes. Yeah. The good Newport. Actually, both Newports are pretty legit though.
That's really cool. Keep telling me more about this. Like, dude, it seems like you're probably everywhere you pull up, you're getting free drinks, you're getting VIP tables, probably. Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean it's exciting, man, because I still feel like it's still so early in everything that I want to achieve. Because like real estate's on the forefront. We haven't even dipped into any of
Hmm.
that piece, and some of these homes down here are going for 10 to 30 million. So, number one, it's great because I get to meet a ton of people and everyone's super welcome. And there's some companies that don't really fuck with us, which is fine because I'm like, okay, then I'll just cross your name off and go to the next. Like we live in abundance. There's plenty of yacht companies, plenty of wedding companies, real estate companies,
Mm.
resorts, whatever. So, I try and get some partners that really want to work with me and create some cool shit and have a bunch of fun. And then it's like, all right, how can we monetize that in a way that's going to be beneficial for them and us, as well as, the followers as well. I don't really cater stuff necessarily to them, but I try and show off the different capabilities of a place like Los Cabos. So there's infinite income streams possible. It's really just, how much can I bear on my shoulders as I continue to expand this team
Uh-huh.
locally.
So are you full time on this now?
Yes.
And you moved full time to Cabo not all that long ago.
Yeah, about 3 months ago, I sold all my shit in California and said, let's give it the old college try and see where it takes us. Worst comes to worst, I'm back on my parents' couch, But I mean, like you only have so many chances in life to roll the dice and take a swing, because the monotony of like a day-to-day job, 9 to 5, just you get fat and happy. And so I see this as like, if I fail on this, I'll be basically right back where I was. I can make money doing a million different things. I can go back into software sales and make good money. But if I get this up and running to the point where I think it can be in terms of like a monetary goal, then I'm fully free. I'm location free,
Hmm.
financially free, time free. So
Hmm.
that's really what I'm chasing, and I hope to be able to do it with Cabo and then replicate it for some of the other opportunities that come my way.
Interesting. And you're in Cabo San Lucas, I'm assuming?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So for Americans, it's funny because like when I've talked to the tourism board, they're like, "You're Cabo. Why aren't you Los Cabos?" And I'm like, "Well, Cabo is four letters, and that therefore that domain is almost always going to be better, whether it's on Instagram, Twitter,
Hmm.
URL, like." And so they're like, "Yeah, but the area is Los Cabos," and I'm like, "Well, to the average American, like."
We call it
Everything in
Cabo.
Baja, yeah, everything down here, like remotely, it's like it's Cabo, and then like me saying I'm from Boston. I'm not from Boston. I'm from 30 miles away. But to the person that doesn't know the area, it's like, oh, you're from Boston, okay, where? And then you start to like zoom in. So Cabo to most Americans is like anywhere from Cabo to San Jose, which is actually where the airport is. So that 30-40 minute stretch is all Cabo to the average gringo.
Yeah, yeah. There's Cabo San Lucas and San Jose del Cabo, I think it's called.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Got it. And San Jose del Cabo is like sleepier. It's kind of where a lot of the retirees are and stuff, golf courses.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of both. I think the cool thing about San Jose del Cabo is there's much more of a community aspect. Every Thursday night they have the art walk, which is a great place for families to go. They have a bunch of
Mm,
paintings and sculptures and vendors, out there selling
yeah.
local stuff. All the bars and restaurants around there, they got the Mexican flags overhead, so it feels
Yeah, like there's
more
some
like
cobblestone streets. I went last
yeah,
year and it's like a Pueblo Mexico, I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
The downtown area where it's like historic. It's pretty cool.
Exactly. So you get some of that, similar to like a Sayulita or like one of those, like you said, like a small pueblo in Mexico. And that's where a lot more of the locals live. But the drive back and forth, I mean, there's one main highway, and
Uh-huh.
highways relative because it's just two lanes on each side, and there's accidents all the time or there's backups. So to have to commute each way would just be a little too much for me to bear.
Makes
So
sense. Um, and I'm just curious as a side note, are Californians like with it enough that they say Los Cabos now, or do they say Cabo? Because I always remember it would being like Cabo, Cabo.
yeah, it's Cabo to everyone that basically doesn't own a house here. Like the people that come here a lot. I mean, I've met plenty of Americans and Canadians that are like, "Oh yeah, I hit San Jose del Cabo and I just go right to Todos Santos or right to La Paz because like they're looking for a certain vibe, and all these different places have slight nuances to them, whether it's
Yep.
the scene, like how much partying or local or surf as well. I don't really surf despite living in California for 10 years and always traveling to surf towns. It's just not really and not my forte.
Those waves are huge in Cabo.
Yeah.
Like that
The
was one thing that surprised me is like when you're on the bay side, it's like all right, but when you're on the open Pacific side,
yeah.
kind of where those hotels are, those
Hmm.
waves are like you can't swim.
Yeah.
Like you cannot swim. You are getting pulled out by the riptide.
Oh yeah. There's signs everywhere that say like don't fucking think about it, bud. Like you like you may be a good swimmer, but yeah, you get pulled out and then it's like it kicks you down 100 yards and you're like, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, so it's a little bit deceptive because it's like you think you're like maybe you get this
Yeah.
oceanfront hotel and then the waves are just like gnarly and you can't even swim. And
Yeah.
but
For me, I'm like, give me the pool next to the ocean where I can still walk on the beach and do it. I'm not much of an ocean swimmer just because like I've been humbled so many times. I mean, I think I was like 10 years old and we came down here the first time from Boston. Shout out my parents for that trip. A couple things happened that trip. Number one, we took an ATV. I was too young to drive, so my brother was on front, and we went to a waterfall. And after that, he was like, "Oh, do you want to drive?" I was like, "Sure." So I'm sitting up front, just in like second gear, just like probably, pedal to the metal, but going like 10 miles an hour. This gal flies past us going like 25, 30. And I'm like, damn, what the fuck was that? And I turn around and there's like six Mexican dogs chasing her. But now we're the slow person. So they start chasing us. And they're like 30, 40 feet behind us and gaining ground quick. So my brother like knocks my hands off the handles, switches it into like fourth, fifth gear and immediately just like, and I turn around because at this point I'm just doing nothing. And these dogs are probably like 10, 15 feet away and they are not looking to say what's up. They're looking for a meal. So I was like, damn, like we're in Mexico. Like this is this is not friendly. So
Yeah.
that was
Dogs
definitely a
bite.
wake up. Yeah, wild dogs are not looking for pet.
Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about BitRefill. BitRefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. BitRefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. Yeah, this is something I had to learn how to do too. Here's a quick tip for the audience is like if a street dog comes at you, make it look like you have a rock in your hand, like raise your hand up like you're going to throw a rock at it, like an invisible rock. That'll scare them off.
Are there a lot of street dogs down there where you are?
Not like an overabundance, but I think it's common kind of anywhere in Mexico.
Yeah, even Latin America. I mean, Costa Rica. Some of those dogs had great lives. Sleep on the beach and eat
Mm.
whatever questionably overpriced gringo meal that those girls couldn't finish. I did the same thing.
Speaking of overpriced and the same thing, maybe we could talk a bit about California versus Baja California and how you're really getting like 90% of the amenities and lifestyle, arguably better lifestyle in a lot of ways, for a fraction of the price. How much do you like? How much, if someone's going to come down there, live full time, what do you think they need to budget per month? How much cheaper is it
Yeah,
than Legacy California?
I mean, Southern California is expensive, and Cabo's not. It's not a ton different. Like your rent is where you'll save the most. You can cut it in half pretty easily, depending on how many bedrooms you want, and how much you care about noise outside. I know some people here that are renting places for under $1,000 for, a two-bedroom. So you can definitely cut that
Yeah.
down. I think San Diego is probably like 3 grand for a one bedroom, or even like a studio in a decent part. So you're definitely saving there. But as far as the food, like a lot of the places that I'll go to, whether, even if it's local or not, you're still paying, you know, $15 a plate for average. And then if you want like a nice dinner, it's, 30 to 50, depending on where you go. So it's like food wise, you're not saving anything crazy. Even if you're going to the grocery store and cooking, like the prices aren't that different. It's
Mm.
really like you can find some cheap rent, or buy a house here that's pretty reasonable. The difference is if you go and buy a 600K condo here, it's all cash versus the 1.2 house you buy in California. So it's a little bit different, more money up front, because they don't really have like financing options or.
Hmm.
So pros and cons. I mean, Cabo is obviously expensive, Mexico. Whereas if you go to Mexico City, you can find things cheaper. If you go to Rosarita, Ensenada, like you can definitely cut down on a lot of that. There's plenty of examples of people living in Tijuana and paying nothing and just driving to San Diego all the time. But
Hmm.
teach their own, you know. I always like to have wherever I'm living, whether it's Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, you know, I want to have my home base as like a sanctuary where it's like, all right, I just know when I'm here, like all my shit's taken care of. Like I don't want to have to worry about any potential problems with that.
Mm. So you got the 12-month lease?
No, I actually just have a 6 month lease. I'm going to go back to California, Washington, see some family over the summer when it's just hot as hell, and then I'll come back in the late fall. So that's a plan. About 6 and 6.
Right. We got to get you your residency, amigo.
Yes, I heard you you have some good options for that. So we'll have to talk more.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Have you ever taken the ferry to Mazatlan?
I have not. No. One of the restaurant owners here has a ton of restaurants in Mazatlan, and he's been trying to get me to go out there. I've heard the shrimp are enormous there. Like they got supposedly they have like that's where they have some of the best seafood. So
They
I
do.
have
They
not.
do have some of
Have
the
you
best seafood.
you've
I
been up
have.
that way?
Yeah, I have. I did the ferry from Mazatlan to La Paz, and it's fun. It's definitely worth doing. And Mazatlan's really cool. Obviously, you could fly there, but the ferry is a pretty cool experience. It leaves from La
Yeah.
Paz, so
Yep.
it's La Paz to Mazatlan. Really cool experience. I did Carnival in Mazatlan the past 2 years. I'm
Okay.
not going to be doing it this February, but I did it the past 2 years, and it's sick. So if you have a chance to go to Carnival in Mazatlan, dude, I highly recommend it. Starts
Nice.
in
Yeah.
I think it starts February 8th, so it'll this episode will come out after that. But yeah, for you, because we're for reference to the audience, we're recording last week of January. But if you get a chance to pop out there, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I need to get up there, so I'll make a note. But yeah, well, I mean, that's the beauty of it is like there's all these little beach towns all along the way, and you know you can find whatever you want. You can go camp under the stars. I mean, the stars here are beautiful. Right now it's whale season, so everyone's getting
Yeah.
out on the water. The whales are jumping, and that's incredible. Like you'll see these videos where the whales, 10 feet away, just jumping out of the water, and these are obviously big fuckers, but they're showing their kids, so you get the mom and the dad and then the baby, so it's like
Uh-huh.
it's actually pretty ridiculous, some of the stuff, and there's plenty of drone guys down here that have incredible content.
Do you have a
um,
car?
I'm actually in the process of buying one right now, because I had a Tesla in California, and I was like, there's just 0% chance I bring a Tesla to Mexico, let alone like
I think it'd
Cabo.
be doable if you had like a parking spot in your building.
Yeah, I mean, I loved having the Tesla because I could charge it at home, but in like I've taken it to the mountains and the battery dies pretty quick, or when it gets too hot, the battery dies, and like it just if I didn't have the ability to charge it at home, I would just never have one. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
doesn't make sense. But out here, everyone's got a 4x4, so need something that can trek on the sand a little bit. And half the streets are dirt. If you go down any back street,
Yeah.
plus
I,
all
I was I
the
was surprised
bumps.
about this when I went to Todos Santos. Like I thought it was gonna be a little bit more built out, but like you go to Todos Santos and half the streets don't have any kind of cement or anything. It's like a sand street.
Yeah, yeah. There's a ton of that here too, right in the city. Toto Santos is, if you're banking on somewhere to have a hefty return, that's a pretty good spot. I imagine in the next 5, 10 years, that place is going to absolutely blow up, because it's got like kind of Laguna vibes where it's super laid back, very chill, surfing, but it's also kind of got that underground like artsiness to it and real community vibes. Whereas Cabo is much more of like a tourist party, get after it piece. So Toto Santos is,
Tell us a little bit more about this because it's definitely I was gonna say hidden gem. It's definitely kind of becoming more mainstream. a lot of people call it kind of like the Tulum of the Pacific coast of Mexico.
Yeah, I've never been to Tulum, and I think Cabo wants to avoid some of that as the headline because there's just you get the good, the bad, the ugly, almost like Bali with people painting their face and just running around under the stars doing shrooms, which you can find that probably anywhere in the world, but I think Todos Santos, kind of like La Paz, like they have a decent amount of locals as well as Americans who have lived there for a while, and so they're just building this culture together, which is very goes back to the core of Cabo and what a lot of Baja California Sur is. Um, and so with that comes the ability to drive 10 minutes up the road and find a beach that nobody's
Hmm.
at,
Hmm.
which is just like you feel like you're an adventurer. You feel like Lewis and Clark looking for the Pacific. It's like, let's just drive up the road a little bit. Like this beach looks cool. Let's, camp out. Let's get a group of us, camp under the stars. And whatever you want to do, you can find. I mean, that's
Yeah,
up to you, but
good reference. I think Todos Santos is one of the only places in Mexico that I've been where people were like pretty openly smoking weed and like chill about it.
yeah, I haven't spent too much time there. Almost everyone smokes weed here. That's what I've come to figure out. Not really my mo.
Yeah, I feel like it's like Cabo is like the Cancun, it's the airport, it's the big city, the mega clubs, the big hotels. And
Mhm.
then, Todos Santos is kind of that Tulum where, you got to take a bus and it's a little more chill, a little bit away from things. And you're right. I definitely think, I think everywhere actually in Baja California Sur is going to completely rip from a real estate investment perspective. So if anyone's listening to this and they want to know where to invest in real estate in Mexico, honestly, I think Baja California might be the number one spot.
Yeah, if you want beachfront property for pennies on the dollar compared to California with much less restrictions, I mean, you just look around and these guys are pouring concrete everywhere, and they've seen to do a really good job of building these uh, condo apartment complexes pretty quickly by pouring some concrete, painting it white, getting some wood aesthetic in there, some greenery with some of the plants, and then
Uh-huh.
kind of blend it with the beauty of Cabo being like an ocean next to the desert, kind of a mix of like if San Diego and Arizona had an offspring.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you
It
get
felt a
some of these
lot
like
like a Arizona, Nevada, like desert on the ocean.
yeah, which is great because you get some of the hiking as well. There's tons of cool spots, not too far away. So again, I look at it like you can do whatever you want down here, whatever your interests are. If you want to do like a wellness retreat, there's tons of those sound baths, spas, like you can do all that stuff. And then, CEOs from tech companies come down here and have their little retreats to,
Hmm.
hey, I'm here on spring break, which is coming up in about a month. So we got DJs coming down here. Last year
Mm.
was like Fisher, John Summit. These guys are playing, basically on the beach for a bunch of drunk 18 to 22-year-olds and then me. So it's like, you can kind of get whatever you want down here. If you want to just stay at an all inclusive and drink the day away and sit in the pool, then you can do that as well.
Yeah. How to become a millionaire, start a yoga studio in Los Santos or in
Prob
Todos Santos.
yeah, I I'm a big yogi. I love that shit because it's like it's like a moving meditation, and meditation is pretty hard. Shout out to anyone that can sit in one place for 30 minutes to an hour and just think about things or turn your brain off and not move physically. Like that's some of the hardest stuff you'll ever do.
Hmm. Switching gears a bit. So you mentioned that you kind of are like a domain name investor or like a Instagram handle investor a little bit, right? Like, so you have some ideas to kind of
Mhm.
replicate this success with other handles?
Yeah, that's the plan. I own a few more, which are still early in their building. But I mean, I know people that own some friends over at Welcome to Arizona. You know, they don't own at Arizona; they own Welcome to Arizona, and that
Pretty
page
wild.
is crushing. Right, but they're right about 1 million followers because
No
they've
way.
understood that. Yeah, I think they just cracked it right around the new year, and so these guys know that, hey, if I put out good content consistently that people want to see and share, then it'll grow regardless of that domain name. So the same way that a lot of companies will have bad URLs or domains, you don't need one, but you definitely get some organic traffic right off the bat by owning at Cabo or at Mexico or at Tulum. I mean, I know the people that own those as well. So naturally, you'll get some stuff just by having the right name, but that's only a piece of the puzzle.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. Introducing Rolf Haltza's Paycheck Multiplication Layering Method, a revolutionary approach that redefines the traditional career path. This is Rolf's new Done With You program, where he'll work with you to implement job stacking for yourself. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, are you ready to step out of the shadows of job insecurity and step into a world of career abundance? Then just click the link in the description of this episode, book a call with Rolf, and start walking the path of unleashing your earning potential with job stacking. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of lead gen. So if someone wanted to get started with this a little bit, I'm just going to ask like a pretty selfish question. So I have my Latin life,
Yeah.
and it's got, I think, like 450 followers, something like that. Um, Obviously, I could drive traffic from Twitter and other sources. Like, should I start just taking people's aesthetic videos and reposting them, or what would you prescribe to me, Dr. Jeff Cabo, to build up my Latin life Instagram?
I would say don't steal other people's at this point because your main focus and growth has all been through Twitter. So it's like those conversations are what's driving everything else. And I don't really think it's worthwhile to be like, hey, you follow me on Twitter, go follow me on Instagram. They'll go look you up if they want to. Like they probably can find you if they want to. So you almost need to take like some of the threads that you've done or some of the longer posts or blogs and turn those into content for your Instagram. So a simple way
Uh-huh.
that you could do that is, maybe you go take a 20-second video or like a 10-second video that's like a Mexican sunset or something, and you put like a headline and you put like read the description, and then in the description you have essentially that Twitter thread. So that's an easy way to take a video that may or may not be yours and have people like read more about everything that's going on. You could also do it by just having the text on screen so that people are,
Mhm.
engaged throughout. Um, but I think if you go and you stole, a bunch of the stuff that I've posted or other people have posted, it's like it's almost watered down by the time it gets to you because it might go off. But I would say mix it in, like maybe for every one you post just a generic video that
Right.
high quality video about anywhere in Latin America. But I think the way that you'll see is like some posts that we have are geared to just go and get a ton of views and just get the name out there. And then we have other ones which are a little more dialed, like, hey, this is what to do in January in
How
Cabo.
to
So
rent a
it's
yacht.
yeah, how to rent a yacht. DM me if you're a hot chick. I might be able to help you out. If not, see ya.
Yeah, no, I get it. A lot of people like screenshot their tweets and then they'll just
hmm
like post the tweet on Instagram.
Yeah, I think for you, you could. you could utilize like a video background. And this is something you can make in Canva or CapCut pretty easy, where again, you find a good good beachfront, or, palm trees or sunset, something that has a little Latin feel to
Uh,
it. And then you could, I wouldn't,
don't, okay. So you're basically saying like go hard on video, screw photos, go
yeah,
hard on video.
it's all videos.
It's all video because so that you
Instagram.
can get on the reels and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you really get that like exponential growth.
Because you got to hit the
There's,
reels because no one's checking the discover and shit, I guess. It's like all reels. And so you're saying if you have a tweet, instead of just screenshotting it and posting
right.
it,
Yeah.
to just take the text and then like make a little short form content thing with it.
Yeah. And you could even hire a VA to be like, hey, go through my Twitter. I'm sure there's an app out there to find the top 10 tweets that you've had in terms of views or
Yeah.
engagement. And then be like, hey, here's two examples of what I like, one being like a headline, and the other being like a running caption, voiceover or something like that, with
Uh-huh.
just like a semi generic video in the background. Because I think the thing is, like, if you're like a Grant Cardone, you could just like screenshot a tweet and put it up, and that would get the conversation going. But right now, like, you don't have enough followers, I would say, to really have that conversation started. So you need to go and keep casting that net and bring in more people. Um, and so there's a couple of different ways. I would say spend like a day just going through a couple pages, both in your niche in terms of like Latin America travel, as well as just like, Latin America, as well as travel, and just kind of look at like what posts are doing well in terms of view counts and engagement. And then just take those core concepts and break that down into like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this. It's the same thing with TikTok. Like, if you make good videos that people are fucking with and sharing and liking and commenting, like, doesn't matter if it's YouTube Shorts or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. Like, they're all a little bit different, but for the most part, like, you could watch a video and be like, yeah, that's a good video. This probably has like 10,000 likes, or this thing probably has 10 likes. So
Mm, definitely makes
ton of different
sense.
aspects, but the easiest way is yeah, like I said, post some stuff about some informative, some just to get more people to see who you are. um, and then, because right now you don't really know what's going to work to help you grow, so until
And
you,
what would success look like?
for your page.
Yeah. Is it a certain
um,
follower count, a certain amount of engagement? How do you know when you're getting traction? And then what would be like a good, like 1 year goal if you were actually consistent for a year?
Yeah, I mean, I think for you, it's just having those conversations on Instagram. So I would say you're more geared towards likes, shares, saves, and comments, because that's where you've had your success. Twitter's the most conversational piece out there, because that conversation is constant. You could go back on a tweet from a year ago and quickly go and jump back into that conversation, whereas Instagram, a week from now, you're not going to go back into a post and really dive in and have that combo. So it's the way that it works is a little bit different. So I would say try and bring that same conversation, which is why the longer form text in the description of the post might get people to really open up and be like, oh yeah, I had a similar experience in, when I was traveling to Mexico City, and just
Mm,
start doing like shorter, blog type, maybe a couple tweets in the description, or again, text on screen, just to kind of get that viewpoint out there, and story tell a little bit, because that's clearly what's been working for you so far. So, um,
mm.
I use later.com to schedule a lot of it. You could put stuff on there for Instagram.
Later.com.
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. It takes about 2 clicks, and you can post to all three of them, and it's like $50 a month. It's nothing.
Cool. I'll take a look at that. So you think Instagram's here to stay?
Yeah, Instagram's not going away. I mean, betting against Zuck is planning to fail. Like there's just no way that that guy. It'll change. They'll probably keep tweaking it to emulate TikTok, especially with like all the TikTok shop stuff right now. I'm sure TikTok is losing billions of dollars by the different discounts that they're doing and crediting both affiliates and the e-commerce stores, paying them out in full despite only charging 60% to the end user, in hopes that, if we lose millions and billions now, we'll be deeply ingrained into how these people are shopping. So all of them, I mean, worst thing you can do is nothing. I would say just start with some stuff, see what gets traction, and then double down on it and keep pumping out content.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And back to you, Jeff, and kind of your story. How you feeling? 3 months into living in Mexico, do you feel like you made the right move? Do you feel more alive?
Yeah, yeah, I love it. And one of the things that I was very fortunate for me is I've met a good group of people down here that have lived down here for a while, and especially in Cabo, everyone works in tourism one way or another. Whether it's in real estate, creating videos, at the resort, selling timeshares. So everyone works in. So like everyone's basically part tourism, which just naturally means that business and personal are bound to match. So when you meet a lot of people that are in a similar age, a similar hunger for where they want to go and what they want to be, I mean, it just makes it easier because the worst thing in the world, honestly, is moving somewhere without friends and having to make friends when you're over the age of like 25 and going out all the time. So very fortunate for that. Um, but yeah, I mean, the thing is, I have plenty of friends and family that have never left the comfort of their home. And how do you really know what you like if you've never gone out and explored? You can always go back and, say, hey, at least I tried that. But if you never step out of your comfort zone, then,
Mhm.
are you really exploring? Are you really adventuring? And I would argue, no. So Mexico feels like home right now. I'm excited. I don't really think I'll go back to California. Maybe somewhere else just to get some mountain views, some greenery. Switch up the environment a little bit. But for right now, me and Mexico are going smooth. It's a healthy relationship.
Healthy relationship. Have you been to the Boston Irish bar there? I forget what it's called.
I have not. No,
You know what I'm talking
I'm.
about?
I think I know because there's like only one Irish bar here.
It's got like Fenway Park inside it and all this type of stuff. And I remember I went there, and yeah, like you said, I mean, it was like a whole squad of people that were like, I think they were dive instructors, something like that.
Hmm.
Um, it was a good little crew. What is this place called?
There's
Uh,
Fenway Bar, and then there's another one, San Patricio Hooligan. So there's a few of them
San
all in.
Patricio. I think it's Fenway Bar.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah,
haven't
it's Fenway
haven't
Bar. Yeah, it's Fenway Bar.
I haven't been there particularly, but I
Yeah,
mean,
dude, they
there's
have
there's
like
there's plenty of spots.
it's like the
Oh yeah,
wall looks like the Green Monster. It says Yankees
oh yeah,
suck. They have all this like signed memorabilia. It's like old school bar vibes, which is hard to find. Kind of that like dive bar.
yeah. That's one of the things that I've learned is like the bars you go to when you're coming down here for a week or a couple days are much different than the bars that you go to when you've lived here for a while.
Mhm.
So starting to dive into more of the dive bars, local bars, meet people that live here versus the people that come get drunk and leave.
Yeah, yeah, dude, it's like one block from the marina. I know after in the next like couple weeks, you better send me a photo being like, dude, I made it to Fenway Bar.
Yeah, I will definitely be there. I mean, I'm down in that area all the time. I can't believe I haven't seen it. I'm wondering if it's like might not be open.
It's like kind of on a side street. It's like a little. Yeah, it's like a quiet little street just behind the main street. You'll see it. Speaking of neighborhoods, like where's like the best neighborhood or ideal neighborhood? Where would you recommend people maybe get an Airbnb or do their long term stay in Cabo?
Yeah, great question. I've lived in a few different areas. Whenever I would come down with my friends, we would always get a spot in Pedregal. Nice gated community, very hilly. Um,
Hmm.
Beautiful homes, beautiful views. Would love to live there. Unfortunately, I don't have 4 mil that I want to spend on a house right now. But great place to stay. If you're going to stay for a weekend, I recommend that because it's like 5-10 minutes from the marina where all the action is. The other place is Tezal, which is like 5 to 10 minutes outside of downtown. Tons of new construction right next to the Costco. These are mostly brand new builds with all the amenities that you can ask for: pools, gyms, security. Plus, it's right outside of downtown. Past couple weeks, I've been living closer to downtown, which is nice because I can walk everywhere. It's just outside of Pedregal. So I like the ability to walk everywhere, but if when I'm staying long term, I'm going to be in Tezal because the proximity plus a little bit of room and space to breathe, so it's not always as crazy as living downtown.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Bit Refill. Bit Refill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. Visit bitrefill.com for more information. Yeah, makes sense. That's a good tip, this Tazal. Does it have kind of like beach access there? It kind of looks like a no man's land.
Yeah, it's right across the highway. You can get to the beach. It really depends on what beach you want to go to. Some of the best beaches aren't actually downtown Cabo. Like Medano, which is the main beach, is
Hmm.
it's okay. But if you want to like lay out and have much more of like a calm beach experience, the best beaches to go to are either like Palmilla, which is right next to the one and only, Chileno, which is right next to Chileno Bay. Those two
Hmm.
are top five hotels, and then really the best one is the Santa Maria Bay, which is semi-private. It's right next to the Montage. The Montage is has a phenomenal location right there in the
Hmm.
bay. And so you can get some snorkeling there. Like if you take a boat out, most of the time they'll go and park at Chileno or Santa Maria so you can swim around.
Hmm.
So it kind of depends what you look for, but yeah, if I'm going to the beach, Medano, because the other thing is you get the people walking the beach trying to sell you stuff from the classic
Yeah,
Cabo headbands that are like "I eat ass" or "My
yeah.
boss is
I,
gay," like
I also noticed it was a little bit gunky from because the cruise ships park like
yeah.
in the bay, so you could almost see like a film of gasoline on the water in Medano Bay there.
Yeah, yeah. There's the other day there was like three massive cruise ships in there, and then there's a multi-million-dollar yacht owned by the CEO of Alibaba. I think it's gone
Wow.
now, but you see these crazy boats, um, and it's good and it's bad. It brings people to town, but also cruise ships like that. Uh,
Hmm.
those are some of the ramifications. Is just maybe you don't want to swim in the water of a cruise ship.
For sure. So it sounds like the best beaches are kind of like half the ones like on the way to San
Yeah,
Jose, like
yeah. They
along the
call it the
highway there.
tourist corridor. And so the I guess from what I've heard, there's no private beaches in Cabo, so all of them have public access. It's
That's all
just
of Mexico.
yeah,
All of Mexico. I think so. What I've heard about this, maybe you have some insider intel, and we'll kind of get to wrapping up soon. But I'm curious what
all
you've
good.
heard about this. Is what I was told was because when I was in Cabo, I wanted to go to the through Pedregal to the like Playa de los Amantes, and you have to go through basically like the Waldorf. I think it's the Waldorf, right?
Hmm.
or the Four Seasons or whatever, and they said like tourists cannot go past, but if you are a Mexican citizen or resident, then you can go past. That meaning like you can walk through the hotel. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I got my residency card right here. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, you can pass. And like some of my buddies didn't have residency cards, and they're like, no, sorry, you
Yeah.
can't pass. It's because all beaches in Mexico are public. But the thing is, the access isn't necessarily public.
Yeah, yeah. I'm that Waldorf is very unique because yeah, you have to drive through like a mountain and then you get out on the other side and it's like holy shit, here's a massive resort. And so a lot of these places just to even get into the neighborhood or their community, you have to either own like a timeshare. There's the way to get around it for the most part is say, hey, we're just here for lunch and you go and have some lunch. It's the same way that
Mm,
back in the day, I would go to these really nice hotels, resorts, anywhere in the world, and you go grab a coffee and then you sit there and work for a couple hours, and it's like
yeah.
those places are always empty. Nobody ever is there just sitting in the lobby. So it's a great way to get out of the house, especially if you work remote to. Go enjoy the benefits of a 5-star hotel, and usually the lunches aren't crazy expensive either. If you want to sit there for a few hours and get some food as well. So, um, all of those hotels, if you want to go to a beach on the other side, just, go grab a bite to eat and then, you're exploring a little bit. The workers don't really care, so don't give them a reason to flag, raise a red flag.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, all the more reason for you and the listeners to get your residency could improve your beach access in Cabo a little bit.
Absolutely. I've also heard there's a ton of discounts having the temp residency card down here as well.
Oh,
Certain
really? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Certain bars, restaurants, I'm sure resorts, everything.
Like locals discount.
Yeah, basically locals discount, especially being a white dude with blue eyes, you or me. It's like, hey, you from here? Yeah, I know you're not. So I think that's a good way. I don't know too much of the specifics. I know some of the places will sell like little Cabo tourism cards, which get you discounts at certain spots or discounts on yacht tours or something like that. But
Hmm.
either way, I think going back to COVID, the ability to be declined entrance into a country because you're American or because you're not of a certain country is the reason everyone needs to have multiple passports. And obviously, Mexico is our neighbor to the south and a great place to spend a few months, especially during the winter. So makes a lot of sense for people to take advantage of the temp residency, that you and your group are offering. So highly recommend. I think Andrew Tate is one of the first guys to talk really about the ability to have two passports or multiple passports, multiple bank accounts to truly be free of any potential oppression by government. So
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Speaking about the people that you're meeting, like what is kind of the makeup of people? Like, are you noticing that it's probably Mexicans from all different parts of Mexico who come to work in the resorts? What I noticed, as well as Americans. So here's what I've noticed, and you can kind of riff off this, is that in the Caribbean side of Mexico, Playa del Carmen, all that, we get more East Coasters. So you get more people from Boston, New York, Toronto, Montreal, things like that. And then in Cabo and in the Pacific side of Mexico, you get more West Coast Americans. So and you'll meet people from Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, California, Arizona, that kind of thing. So they kind of just go in like a vertical line south.
mhm.
And then with the Mexicans, it's kind of similar, where the types of Mexicans that I was meeting in Baja were kind of from the neighboring states there. So I was meeting a lot of people from Sonora, Sinaloa, Chihuahua, Jalisco, Baja Norte, Tijuana. And so that's kind of what I was seeing there is like It's like a. Does that ring true at all with what you've seen?
Yeah, I 100% agree. If there's a couple good maps that'll actually show basically the distance 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours from Baja and where that is in terms of the states as well as the states of Mexico. So if you look at that, it's like, 2 hours, an hour and a half, you're in San Diego, 3 hours, you're in San Francisco. And then, if you carry that all the way, in a
Concentric
circular
circle.
arch. Yeah, exactly. So that hits like, almost Chicago. Houston has direct flights. I just took that about a week ago when I was coming back from Florida. And then that continues down to about Mexico City. And so a lot of it here is, you get a bunch of Chilangos, some Guadalajara, and a
Mhm.
good amount of people that are from here as well, because there's such a presence of tourism that, oftentimes if you work in Mexico City but the work's actually in Cabo, they are trying to move a lot of that to here. So it's just another opportunity to make good money for a lot of these Mexicans that, come from Guadalajara or Mexico City and want to
Mhm.
enjoy some of that. And then again, Southern California, all of California, Arizona, Colorado, Chicago, and then surprisingly a lot from Vancouver as well. I think
Yeah,
I've met 10 people or so who are
for
trying to be
sure.
snowbirds.
Calgary,
But
Vancouver. A lot of people even
yeah,
drive their car down from Vancouver and then spend like the whole winter in Cabo. It's a long
yeah,
drive, but people do it.
it. Yeah, I've done the drive from Seattle to Arizona. I haven't done the drive from Baja to the states, but that'll be happening soon here. But again, if you come from the East Coast, like when I meet people from New York, Washington D.C., it's like that's at least two flights, one layover in Chicago or Houston or something, or maybe even Atlanta, and that's a long trek to get anywhere. So I'm always curious how people choose Cabo versus, like you said, Cancun or even the Caribbean is, a hop, skip, and a jump for most of them.
hmm I think Cabo is a little bit more year round than the Caribbean is. Like the Caribbean in the summer is like brutal. Hurricane season's pretty brutal. Cabo, it's
Hmm.
obviously hot in the summer, but it's like doable because there's a breeze and it's not nuts. I think
Yeah.
you can be there in June, July, August, and like obviously it's not the most comfortable, but it's not. It's like much more year round friendly than the Caribbean is, I think.
Yeah, the main time to be here is November to June, early July, because then it just gets, it gets hot. But the heat's one thing. September, October, you also get the hurricane season here, as we saw last year, which carried almost into November. Um, and so I have some friends that are trying to book a trip down here in November of this of 2024, and I'm like, just know that you're rolling the dice when you flirt
They're
with
not
that
that
time of
bad
the year.
there. They're really not
No,
that
it's
bad
not.
compared to
But
the Caribbean hurricanes are way worse.
yeah, but you
And the
saw
ones in the like
what happened to
Acapulco.
Acapulco. That
Yeah,
was
but
that
I
was.
think Cabo's like way more north. So it's like fine.
I think Cabo is actually.
It's been hit. Like if you look at Wikipedia, it's been hit a little bit, but it's
What I mean
yeah.
is, like, especially this past year, it came up through Cabo, kind of dusted the very southern tip, hit La Paz pretty good, and then
Mm.
catches more in the Sea of Cortez and continues on to Acapulco. So it wasn't the same one that hit Cabo, but it definitely makes its way, through Cabo and then down the coast. But yeah,
Mm.
what happened in at Acapulco is, I mean, that was devastating.
Yeah, fair enough. So as we get to wrapping up, I thought it'd be cool to maybe just mention a couple of things that make you very bullish on Cabo. You mentioned, increasing flight coverage to Spain, and I'm sure lots of other places. They're implementing more flight routes. We have a large exodus of Americans coming to Cabo. I think a lot of retirees that might
Hmm.
find it cheaper to retire in Baja California. What are some of the other things that are making you bullish on Cabo?
I think the food here is awesome as well. From steaks to seafood. I mean, there's a five-star restaurant almost anywhere you go, and it's cheaper than the states. The people are friendly. Uber is here, which is has been huge because you can take it, anywhere you need to go, and it's safe. So that peace of mind. Plus, it's a solid airport, so you can get to most places you need to go in just a couple hours. So I see it as like if you're more than a couple hours away from an airport that you can't get to, you know where you need to go, that's a big problem regardless of where it
Hmm.
is. I know I can fly here to Seattle, I can fly here to, like I said, Chicago. um,
Hmm.
so I think the proximity and the ability to travel, plus the lifestyle is great. It's easy, the people are warm and friendly. I've never worried about safety here except for the dogs on the ATV. Like, people walk around with APs on their wrist. All the celebrities come here. Just in the past year, it's like the Kardashians were down here. Bieber's always down here. Drake. I was hanging out with Mike Madlak, Logan Paul's podcast mate. We had some
Mm.
F1 racers in town. So I mean, there's always people coming to Cabo, and that's what's cool is you can be at a table next to somebody famous and you wouldn't even really know it. So it's kind of like a hush hush getaway. No paparazzi, no nobody really cares who you are. It's a very chill place to enjoy whatever you want to do without somebody looking over your shoulder or having to worry about this or that in terms of security, or just like trying to get away from the monotony of the states.
Definitely, definitely. Jeff, do me a favor. When we say bye, hold on for like 30 seconds
Yeah.
so that the audio uploads. But Jeff, take this time to direct the audience again to your Instagram page and share any final message with the audience.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for making it this far. This was great to have this conversation and really share my knowledge of Cabo with you. If you want to find me at Cabo on Instagram, or the website is instacabo.com, feel free to send me a message. Always happy to connect. If you're down here, I'll buy you a beer, show you a good time. Other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or My Latin Life. Again, our goal here is to be the shepherd for you and help you make the right decision, whether it's to come to Cabo or not. All we want to do is make sure that we're giving you a little bit of our knowledge. So thanks again. Look forward to chatting soon.
Thanks, Jeff. You've given me a lot more reason to make another trip out to Cabo, and like I said, I'm very, very bullish in the area, and I feel like it is one of the top places where I could see myself kind of ending up long term. Really has a lot going for it. So again, at Cabo, Mr. Jeff Hefe Cabo, instacabo.com. Thanks to Jeff for doing this, and thanks to the audience for listening.